Well, good afternoon, everybody. We appreciate everyone being here. We had hoped we were going to miss the rain, but hopefully we'll miss the worst of it. I'm Drew Bunton, the director of the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. On behalf of our whole team here at DNR, I would like to thank everybody for being here today, and to those who might be watching on the live stream remotely. I'd also like to extend a very special welcome to Governor Mike Parson and First Lady Teresa Parson, who have joined us here today. Thank you all for being here. Since Carol's passing on June 9th, we have received many condolences, emails, texts, thoughts, and prayers from those whose lives had been touched by Carol. It's evident, and those of us that work very closely with her on her team, we knew this all along, that she impacted many people in her life. Carol was named the director of the Missouri Department of Natural Resources in January of 2017. She brought with her a wealth of experience and a passion for the environmental and governmental issues that are within the purview of the department. She was an accomplished leader and a dedicated public servant who was a strong advocate for the state's natural resources. She cared for her employees, her team members, as she called them, and was passionate about taking care of them, especially as it relates to their mental health and making sure that we were all taking care of each other from that perspective. Nothing, and her team will attest to this, that Carol ever did lacked enthusiasm, excitement, or passion, from the bubbles that she would blow at our engineers who just loved, being the focus of attention in meetings about some of their accomplishments, to rock star awards, even through her fight with cancer and her colorful wigs. There will always be many things to remind us of Carol's vibrant personality that was taken too soon. I was fortunate enough to be asked by Carol to return to the agency from Minnesota to serve as her deputy director. She was an inspirational leader, and she had a clear vision for the agency. I knew shortly after meeting with her the first time that we would make a good team, and that she would be more than just a manager or caretaker of the agency, but that she would be a leader. We will continue to honor her legacy by following her vision and working to ensure a brighter future for the people of Missouri. I'm so pleased that the governor has made time to join us here today to honor Carol's memory. So please join me in welcoming Governor Mike Parson.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, so what would Carol do? It's raining a little bit, it's DNR. I'd say she'd say, "Suck it up, let's go." That's what I think she would say, the way I knew her and everything. It's great to be out here today. Great to have the First Lady with me out here, too. I just want to share with some of you, because a lot of the employees that I haven't been able to just have one-on-ones with you, and we go back in history a little bit when I first became governor of the state of Missouri. And I'll be honest with you, it was some of the most unusual circumstances you could ever imagine going in that position. With all my directors, and some of the other directors are here today that are with me, and I really did not know just how I was going to handle everything. But one of them, all the directors that have been with me, Carol, I'll never forget, as one of those rising stars in the cabinet level of who she was and what she represented. She had a true heart for public service. She really wanted to do what she believed was right. And I think any of us that's had a chance to know her very much, to sit down with her, even when things are a little stressful and when they're not, she always kept her eye on the goal line. She always really knew me, or what I believed is she always knew which direction she was going. And I'm going to tell you, all of us, some of us, have went through different health things in our careers. I have, she did, and that girl was nothing but true grit to go through what she went through. I remember I went to an event one time, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't hardly recognize her. I hadn't seen her for some time after the cancer situation, and then I thought, boy, this don't look good at all. And lo and behold, a few weeks later, here she is again at another event, and another event, and another event. And then she's in cabinet meetings, and she's doing her job, staying the course on that. And I think today we're all here to honor her, and a well-deserved for us all to be here. And it's okay if we get a little wet today. It's okay if things just ain't perfect, because none of us are. And I think when you're doing Carol, what you're doing for her today, the tree and the bench, I can't think anything more fitting than she would have liked. And I don't know who put all this together, but I thank you for doing it and having a part in it. But I thought so fitting for Carol to be remembered here in the state. I think all of us, sometimes we're taken for granted. People don't always appreciate what we do every day, what you do every day. And I think of people like Carol, of their leadership ability to lead you and make you believe in her. And I think all of you that are here today, that are standing out here showing your respect for her, she's touched you in some way, some fashion, that you believed in what she was doing. And I think that's the true qualities of a leader. I really do. I tell my cabinet members and I tell my staff, and it's never about being the best. It is never about being the best governor. It's never about being the best director. It's about making the people around you better. And if you can do that, you will become a good leader. Carol Comer was a shining star, an example of those qualities of what she done for every one of you. And the other thing, in finishing up here, she represented all of you. I mean to tell you, you should be proud of the way she conducted herself, of the goals she had set, how much she appreciated each and every one of you. Because believe me, I've been in meetings with her where she's sticking up for you. And sometimes where other people wasn't saying much, she was coming to the forefront saying, what about my people? What about the folks that work out here? And I think that's something we all need to remember as leaders, and I think Carol was a perfect example of that, to be able to do that. So it's an honor for me to be out here today and just be part of this ceremony. I think every time we go to a memorial service or an honoring service, whatever you want to call it, it's always hard to find the right words. But I think sometimes at these, you just speak from the heart. You call it the way it is. And I think that's what she would have liked. And I do believe everybody here today, she would be so appreciative of you standing out here today, being here for this moment, to remember her. I know in my heart that that would be what would make her more happy than anything else she could add. I'm proud she was part of my cabinet. I'm proud of the person she was, and it was an honor and privilege for me to meet her and to work with her as the 57th governor of the state of Missouri. Thank you for having me out here today. God bless each and every one of you. God bless Carol and her life, that it continues on, and her family's life. Thank you, Drew, for having me out here, and thank you for what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. All right, so if the governor will join me, we will unveil the bench that we're dedicating in Carol's memory, and then my colleague Katie Jo Wheeler will offer some remarks after we do that. So, Governor, if you'll join everybody, sit down, please.
Yeah, everybody don't have a chair. Sit down.
Pull it this way, and then
I don't know if you all can see the picture of Carol here, but I would assume that'd be exactly what she's doing. We just did that.
Yes.
just share one thing. The last event that Carol was at here with her team was out on that patio right over there, and it was kind of a team member appreciation event, and we all had our favorite group t-shirts on, and we were playing guitars, and we had a great time. And that was really, she had an event dedicating the Sappington Cemetery at Arrow Rock. That was her last public event, but the last event that she had with her team that she loved so much was just right over there, and so it seemed a fitting place for this to be located. And with that, I will turn it over to the Deputy Director at DNR and Carol's friend, Katie Jo Wheeler. Katie.
In case you were wondering, it's Coldplay. Coldplay was Carol's favorite band. You have to talk to somebody about how many Coldplay concerts she had been to. I think she qualified as an actual groupie. So have to check into that later. So I flatter myself that I know Carol just about as well as any Missourian, although I'm not going to pretend to compete with the Hoosiers. Carol and I worked very closely together, but we were also really good friends. And as I've reflected on what words would best honor her in this moment, the words I think she would choose if she were here to reassure us and to comment on her own legacy, I think Carol would want me to share a few personal moments that highlight who she was and what she stood for. Carol was committed to her principles. She was stubborn as an ox and authentic to her core. So it's really no surprise how eagerly she embraced the state of Missouri and its people. When she set her mind to something, she did it. Whether that was visiting 91 state parks and historic sites within 10 months of becoming department director, or baking cheesecakes and cream puffs to deliver to her team. She was not deterred when I moved to Kansas City last year. She simply got in her car and drove 5 hours just to leave holiday treats on my doorstep. Carol was also determined to wear a suit and heels on most days. And I mean most days, including tours of coal-fired power plants and landfills, as well as a trip to Pershing State Park, where we hiked several miles to a log jam through waist-high brush. I never could convince her that steel-toe boots were more appropriate attire for some of our visits, but I caught her in hiking boots a couple times, and she ultimately relented and started wearing flats to the office when her balance started to fail. Carol was dynamic, she was loud, she was confident, she was wicked smart, quick to decision, but she was just as quick to change her position if she turned out to be wrong. And she was always willing to compromise without ego. Carol was comfortable with the risk of being wrong, comfortable admitting it on the occasions that it happened. She was tolerant of the mistakes of others, if not her own. Her larger-than-life talent and personality could be intimidating to some, but she was just as human as the rest of us. A wonderful human. I will miss her pigeon-toed stance, her laugh, how much she loved to laugh, her nervous habit of picking at her fingers, the time she got pulled over for speeding on the way from this building to the budget hearing, how she would buy the same suit in multiple sizes so she'd always have one that fit, the way she would cock her head sideways and sit up tall when she was wary of what she was hearing, how she would sometimes lean forward and punctuate her words with some good old-fashioned table thumping. Anybody get some of that? I did. That time she stopped by the Polar Plunge on a freezing cold day and decided to participate even though she didn't have a change of clothes. It must have been a very uncomfortable ride home from the Lake of the Ozarks. The navy sweater that was always hanging on the rack next to her office door. And the crazy wigs she would wear during her chemotherapy. She'd just giggle and say, I mean, if I'm gonna lose my hair, I might as well have fun with it. I will never forget how Carol took a chance on promoting a very pregnant young woman to an important position in the agency, knowing full well that it would mean 3 months of parental leave and additional accommodations to support that young woman in nursing her child. Carol may not have lived these experiences herself, but she was determined to support those who were. She would often say her definition of leadership had 2 components: execute the vision and bring up the next generation of leaders, table thump included. It would bring her great joy to know that she's remembered for doing exactly that. Carol cared deeply for each and every one of you, and she wanted you to know that. If she were here, she would repeat in earnest how much she appreciated your support professionally and personally, and how loved your gestures of kindness made her feel. You need only look at the picture here and inside your program to understand. This photo was taken the day Carol returned to work after her leave of absence to battle cancer. Our DNR team members lined the hallways from the entry door down here all the way up to her office on the 4th floor to applaud her return, complete with Team Carol signs and bubble guns. That moment, that gesture, carried her for days and weeks and months. Each December, Carol was diligent about cleaning out her stacks of paper over holiday break, sending documents for retention or the shredder as appropriate. I'd come back every January to find a sparkling clean space ready for a fresh year worth of paper. But as I cleaned out her office this June, I discovered there were 3 stacks that she never purged. They were all the cards that all of you had sent her over the years. She saved each and every one of them. She would often speak with me in general terms about how lovely it was to receive your notes, your solidarity during her cancer treatment, your words of gratitude for her candor about mental health, and your general encouragement as she led this agency to the best of her ability. Carol and I talked often about her health, her prospects for getting better, how to handle her continuing health challenges, and what the decision points would be if she continued to deteriorate. She often struggled to ascertain an accurate picture of her health at any given time because her stubbornness caused her to push through pain and illness because she was determined to keep going. Carol had anticipated that she might reach a point of steady decline, and if that happened, she had dreamed of going home to Indiana to spend her final days with family and friends. And I'm of 2 minds about losing her so prematurely. On the one hand, I wish she could have had more time to enjoy the fruits of her labor, sharing more laughter with her family and friends without the pressures of work. She deserved to rest and to celebrate. But on the other hand, Carol loved her work. She loved this agency and its people, and she got to do what she loved until the day that she died. Carol passed peacefully at home with her work iPad nearby. I believe she is at rest and that she is celebrating all that she accomplished, all those she loved, and the great things that we will accomplish here together in her memory. So thank you for coming and for celebrating Director Comer with us here today.
Well, we appreciate everybody being here today, and I know that was not an easy thing for Katie Jo to do, but Katie Jo, you were a good friend to Carol, and we appreciate, and her team appreciates everything that you've done for the agency as well. So thank you. All right. Well, with that, we appreciate all of you being here and joining us today, and appreciate you joining us in honoring Carol's memory. So thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. Safe travels.